Okay, I think we got our audio. We're setting up our exposure right now. 60th of a second, about f5.7. We've got a 5-stop ND filter. We're gonna make sure we can get the sky if and we need to. There we go. Now I bring it back and we're away from the sky. We got Benny and Jolene. We got all the stabilization on. I think we're set. Let's flip a Rooney and see how we do. Whoa, hello. Jesus, look like I just woke up. Maybe I did. Doesn't matter. There we go. Okay, let's go with that. Looks pretty good. We got some full frame goodness going on with the Lumix S9. We got some full frame image stabilization. We're purely handheld. We're gonna go do some photography today. Come on, hey, all right. Pee it out. Pee it out. There you go, atta girl. Jolene usually does a big one, and then she tries to pee and be like her brother, but she can't. Her bladder just unloads, and his is like rapid fire, ready to go. He reserves his tank so he can spread his pee mail. Fuji X-Pro3. We're set in spot point metering, and because that's going to make it nice and quick. We're also using, here, let me dial this in, you guys, hold on. Okay, this is from the advanced filters. Deep down in that Fuji menu, have an advanced menu. A lot of it's toy kind of stuff that's fun to play with, but we're using one that I actually like because there really isn't anything that does this type of thing straight out of camera, and it's the dynamic range. Get it the fuck out of the way. What's that? Yeah, you too. All right. So anyways, using that dynamic range gets us a whole other look straight out of camera. He's up to no good. Turn it into a nuclear scene. Make it nuclear. Cool look, huh? This will be fun today. Hope I can narrate this okay. It's a crazy story, and we're gonna get some crazy photos to go with it. Let's get on with it. Thanks for coming. There's been a culture of silence since the early 40s. This was a secret city. What they were doing up the road was a big secret too. That was the culture here in Richland. The Hanford Site produced plutonium, wartime production of plutonium in the middle of the desert that's about half the size of Long Island. A lot of science going on, but it took a lot of engineering to get it done. 50,000 people up in the desert, living out of tents, trailers. The years of early Hanford, in the early 40s, was all about the rush. They were really trying to build a bomb. They didn't give a whole lot of care. I don't think they ever thought that this would be more than a 2 or 3 year operation. But the Cold War came around. It not only got bigger, it tripled. Way more than tripled in production of plutonium. There wasn't a lot of regard for safety in the early years. It really was a wartime effort. They have a name for a certain badge that happens up there. It's called the Hanford scar. It goes right above your thyroid gland, and it's where your thyroid's been removed. That's been going on for 50 years. The Hanford scar, it's not a badge of honor, it means you've been initiated. 200-foot chimneys, radiated iodine. This was a cross-contamination of a whole different perspective. The smokestacks that day busted out some really nasty shit. They'd take 10 years after ingestion to show signs. So there was no early detection for anyone because they didn't even know there was a problem. The only way they knew something happened, something bad took place, was because there were cows and sheep that were dead in the fields. Just random, not all of them, just some. The other thing was the birth rate was bad here in Richland. There were all kinds of problems, but you couldn't really tie it to anything yet. You know, in those days, back in the 40s, 50s, things were a lot closer. There wasn't a large dairy somewhere. Small local dairies. The cows ate the local grass. The local milkman brought you your milk from that cow that ate the grass near your home. There were people that were sick, and then there were people that were sick and didn't know they were sick yet. It takes a long time for it to get to your thyroid, but once it does, the survival rate for cancers here was not very good. Whereas other people were attending to other people across the nation had a higher rate of survival. They still had a culture of silence, however. That was still a thing. 3 Mile Island had a cancer death rate of 7. That's very high, because the normal is around 4. Hanford was around 11. The wind wasn't very big that day. In fact, if it would have been bigger, it probably would have been safer. So they picked a mild day, and it even sprinkled rain that day. In 1949, we had some pretty fancy equipment. Our fancy equipment picked up the fact that Russia had just set off a nuclear bomb from the US. We were able to sniff that out. That got us wondering if there was a way that we could use those sensors to do a flyover in Russia. Could we fly over Russia's Hanford, their version of Hanford, and pick up stuff so we could find out how active they were? There was only one way to find out. So in 1949, the good folks up there at Hanford and the Department of Defense ran a test. It's called the Green Run. They took the filters out. They took all the filters out of the 200-foot smokestacks, and they let everything go airborne. They ran it hard. They wanted to get stuff up in the air so that the Air Force and their sensors could pick it up. It was in December 1949 when they decided to give the sniff test a try. They did test afterwards and found out the amount of area that it went through. It was a lot, including Walla Walla, clear up to Ritzville. The Air Force Base was right next door in Pasco, so it was a collaborated effort, but nonetheless the evidence started collecting itself, and it became pretty apparent of the time frames in which people were getting sick that it had come from that. They were fighting the government. Everyone was. All the sick people were fighting the government, trying to get help. At this point, it was pretty well acknowledged that something had happened, but nobody was going to say what. Not yet. It took until 1986 for the records to be released. In 1986, that's 30 years, they released the documents about the Green Run. It became a legal document at that point. It was for real. They did it. They fucking did it. $60 million they used to fight this case, and they were clearly at fault. If you're wondering about the payouts to those that were injured, that totaled $7 million. The number was over 100. They spent $60 million and decades. I think they won. I think the Department of Energy won. If you enjoy this kind of content that I'm doing lately, let me know. Kind of going out there a little bit, so I'd appreciate any bit of advice, encouragement, help. You know, give me some feedback. Curious. All right.